If he's gonna follow me, he better have some gumption.
Hey everybody, Bob of All Trades back here again with another video. Today's video is going to be on my Skidoo 1200 again, but more specifically with the reverse capabilities of the 4-strokes. So whether you have a Skidoo 1200, a 900, perhaps the 600 Ace with your mechanical reverse or your automatic reverse, sometimes when you pull on the reverse lever, it just won't go into reverse. Same with your automatic reverse. When you push the start button to start the vehicle initially, but then when you want to go into reverse, it just won't go into reverse, and you'll get that reverse error message going across your dash. Today we're going to dive into that and show you exactly what's going on and how you can fix it. So inside your chain case, you're going to find one of these. This is your forward gear along with your reverse gear. Now, with the reverse gear, there are other gears down here in the chain case that play a role when you put it into reverse. What ends up happening is that you have a forward motion on your gears from your belt deflection, and that's holding these gears sort of tensioned together. And what I'm going to show you is that inside here on the spline, there's going to be little grooves from constantly being in a forward motion. And what happens is those grooves end up locking in with each other. And because you have a little bit of tension from your belt on there, you can't get it into reverse. And what ends up happening is, like what happened to me, is when you have your manual reverse lever and you pull on it too hard, you end up breaking your lever. And what I did was, like many of you, I went to Trick Toys and I got myself an aluminum handle, which sort of helps solve that problem, but it doesn't get rid of the problem completely, because these little gears, the gear inside here on the spline, because of that little overlap, it catches just so much that it won't allow the gear to go into reverse. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to take this gear set apart. I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is, how to fix it, and then we're going to do a walkthrough on a step-by-step on how to take your chain case apart and put it all back together. I do have to take my chain case apart anyway, because I need to replace my gear set with this larger gear set because I want a little more performance out of the turbo. So stay tuned for the next video and we'll show you how to get all this done. So here we have our reverse gear assembly. We have our drive gear and we have our reverse gear. This is our chain case side. This is our chain case cover side. And you have the two forks that come down like this. So when you pull your reverse lever, this pulls this out. This gear now engages another gear down below, which is right here. So this gear then meshes up with that gear, which spins this gear in a different direction, which also spins this gear in a different direction, which is hooked onto your chain, and that's how you get your reverse. So the first thing that we have to do is we got to take this guy apart. So we got to take off the spring clip on this side and the spring clip on this side. But first thing, we'll take off this side. There is a spring in there, so just be careful. It's not under a heck of a lot of tension or pressure, but there is some. So we just put downward pressure, open that up, take the clip off, take the spring off, and set that aside. Now your reverse gear comes right off, set that aside. So now we'll get our drive gear off. And again, there's a spring clip on the back and a washer. So we'll make sure that we don't lose that. Put those aside. And then your drive gear slips right off. There's a bearing inside that there. So this is the spline that your jack shaft from your secondary bolts into. Your bolt goes in there, and your secondary splines in there. So when your secondary is on there, when you start your snowmobile, and I'll give you a shot of that soon, but as soon as you start your snowmobile, you get a frontward motion like that. And what happens is, if you can see on those gears, there are little indents right in here. And those little wee indents line up with the indents on the inside of the reverse gear. So when your reverse gear is sitting here normally, it's always got that front tension on it, which is the back of each tooth going forward against this. So imagine this rolling forward against this all the time. And these teeth right here are wearing into these splines. So again, I just hope you can see it. There you go. You can see it against the light. Those indents are enough so that when you start your machine and you get that initial torque against this spline from your belt, it won't, you can almost hear it when I do that. That initial torque off the start, when you go to put your machine in reverse and your forks pull that over, they get caught right on these little guys. So what you have to do is take your splines and either with a file or a grinder, something very delicate, you need to smooth out those indents so that they go away. And I'll show you exactly how I do that. So this is going to be how I do them. You can get yourself a fine file. However, this stuff is the hardened steel and things get hot in here, so it's got to be a certain type of metal and however they heat treat it and all that stuff. So it's very hard. So using a regular file, it's going to take you a long time, and I found a little bit of an easier way to do it, but you have to be super careful when you're doing this. As you can see again, those little indents, they got to be smoothed out. I have my little Milwaukee 3-inch grinder. All I do, because the blade is very thin, it fits right into those splines. And I use the one side of the motor here, and I just use the leverage from the machine. And I very carefully just graze the inside, that back edge of the spline. I don't let my grinder hit the front edge, even though it wouldn't make a big difference. That's where you're going to go into reverse, and it's going to be over here anyway. The thing is, you just don't want to mark it up too much. So the idea is just to smooth out that little ramp right there so that it doesn't get caught. So it does take a little bit of time, and I'll show you quickly how I do it with 2 or 3 splines, and then I'll show you the finished product afterwards. So that feels nice and smooth right now. Now it's not perfectly, if you looked under a microscope, it's probably going to be rough as hell. But I do not feel it with my fingernail anymore, whereas this one, I can feel it. So that has now kind of done one of these. And you can't tell what I'm doing in the video, but I'm going down, creating the pressure, and coming up. I'm going down, creating the pressure, and coming up. I'm not starting at the top, putting pressure on, and going down. I was kind of doing this effect. Okay? So I'll show it one more time on this guy. And you'll be able to see as you get rid of it. And now when you look at it, there's nothing missing from the top. You're taking a very minute amount of material away. So now I can run my fingernail across that and it's nice and smooth. It's going to be smooth enough that now when you put that gear into reverse, it's going to be able to slide over. I did it to my 1200 already. I did it to my wife's Grand Touring. And this is another gear set that I'm putting on, but it has to get done as well. And mine slips over silky smooth, and so does my wife's. So it takes some time. It's a little painstaking to do it, but this is the quick and easiest way that I found to do it. As I mentioned, you can do it with a file, but when you're all said and done, you can get some valve lapping compound if you want and do a little bit of finesse work in there. I'm sure you could get some wet sand paper and get rid of those burrs in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. We'll be back with you soon. So here I go. I've got all of the splines grinded out. And as I mentioned before, under a microscope, they're probably going to be somewhat rough, but I can run my fingernail on all of those and they feel pretty good. I don't have any hang-ups or anything like that. So that probably took me that way about 10 minutes or so. And I just took my time, just grinding it out nice. And then when you put the reverse gear on and you put tension going this way with the gear and take this and force it back as if it was binding and slide it, it's nice. You can take it out and rotate it, and it's nice. So now when your belt has tension going that way and the force of the gear is going that way, and when you pull your reverse over, it's going to slide over. So that is just one way that you can fix your reverse gear on the splines if it's giving you a little bit of trouble. And like I said before, you can get some valve lapping compound or some wet sandpaper and give that just a little bit of finesse, and it's just going to be that much better for you. So what I'll do next is I'm going to clean all these up. Another thing too is I should have cleaned these before I started, but you can use brake clean, something like that, just to get everything clean. Then when I put it all back together, I will show you, if you haven't taken your chain case apart before, how to take the chain case apart from start to finish, get this gear assembly changed out and filled back up with oil so that when you go to put your machine in reverse, it works.